Hi, it's Hazel, and welcome to my channel, Hazel and Aka Design. I am here today to do my video for Angela, the Traveling Crafters, April collab, which she's calling Give a Scrap. Hashtag Give a Scrap. So, I read and reread the the parameters of the collab, and I thought, well, isn't everything we do using up scraps to some degree or other? Well, many of us, most of us, I would say. I think there are people that buy everything new and use only new, but I'm not one of them. Anyway, you may know that I just recently finished a month-long collaboration of my own called Masterboard Madness. And what impressed me by so many of those participants, creators, was the fact that they chose projects that not only, fulfilled their commitment to me and to each other, but also so practical, so sensible, also did things that they will be using very soon in their very own studios. And I thought, well, that makes so much sense. I want to do that too. So for those of you who are regular viewers, you may, and I'm going to, this is going to be a combination of showing you what I've done and doing some stuff with you. Because, my whole editing handicap. Okay, so those of you who have been around a while and have watched regularly will have seen this before. This was a one of those folders, yeah, let's call it a folder, that you get when you are a delegate at a conference. So, you show up at the registration desk, they give you a folder with the agenda for the conference and maybe some goodies and a name tag and whatever. So typically they're made of pretty sturdy stuff, but they're not that practical for journal purposes. So quite a long time ago, I cut this baby down to, well, it's about 5 1/4. And I don't remember if I took anything off the height. No, I guess I didn't. I left it at 12 inches. And I also left these pockets. Now, you can see it was a seed. Honestly, you can always count on one of my videos for telling you something that, some ways to improve. So when I did this, and I'll show you this collage here on the cover more closely, but I'll tell you, I have been adding glue and adding glue and adding glue. Okay, so maybe you can tell by this. Well, you can tell by this how glossy it is. It's substantial. The cover was probably, well, it's all one piece, so it would have been the same thickness. But you can also see how glossy it is. Now, clearly, when I did the this collage, which I happen to just love, I didn't scuff up the surface with a sanding block. So that's a mistake. So what exactly are the component pieces here? What are the scraps? Well, for one thing, scrap folder from a conference. This was a wrapper from a package of recycled paper. So printer paper, well, you can see 8.5 by 11, multi-purpose, 30% post-consumer waste. And I guess as I considered different options around the studio, I thought, well, I can use that, or I can use that, I can use that. You want to do well because your own reputation is at stake. You want to do well so that the host's collab is a success. But as I said, I also wanted to get something of my own finished and off the table. But I thought this almost was like too good to be true because it was talking earth choice. And Angela, of course, referenced Earth Day, which, of course, falls in April. And you will, again, if you've watched in the past, know that I did a bunch of doodling. I added mark making and borders and dots and whatever. Frankly, I like it the way it is, so I don't think I'm going to add anything more as a decoration. Although, because this was kind of, oh, maybe this thing will be the answer to my prayers. This is a must-have in a studio, by the way. It's a glue picker-upper. And it is also pretty good at removing, you know, like in this case, some of these marks. Now, of course, there's a lot of white here, so that would also, you know, that's a bit more difficult to keep clean. I'm sure that I made some of these marks, but I also know that the package itself, which I bought at a thrift store, was not clean when I bought it. So, you know, things kind of went from bad to worse. Anyway, I think it's looking pretty good. All that to say that at this moment, I do not have a plan to decorate the cover further. But if you can believe your eyes, for once in a very, very long time, I remembered to embed a tie, or not embed, sandwich a tie between the outside and this inside decoration. This is vintage wallpaper. I love this design. I think I have it in a couple of colors that I, you know, obviously thrifted a roll or a partial roll at a thrift store. Now, you can, well, it's hard to tell, but you know, these, when conference organizers buy these things, they don't imagine it's going to turn into a book. What they do is buy something that is sufficient to hold a few sheets of paper and not much more. So I am pressing, you know, pushing my luck here. I have already made it harder to close because I've added some bulk here. And originally I had taken a piece of paper thinking, oh, I'll do it in one fell swoop. And I changed my mind because we know that often doesn't work very well. You end up with that, you know, that bunching, and which just makes the closing issue that much worse. Oh, I forgot to tell you this, in case you were just born in the last, you know, 2 or 3 years, you may not know that this is raffia ribbon, and you know, it does open out if you wanted to use it that way. But typically, God, these hands, I think this is my 3rd video of the day. But typically people just leave it as is. I had no idea how long I wanted the pieces. So they're a 1/4 of a mile long each. But when I tried it a while ago, it wraps around several times and is nice. And honestly, when you're stressing your gutter, your spine as much as I'm going to be, you need something reliable to close it. Okay, so recycled folder, recycled wallpaper, thrifted raffia, and you don't know it because I didn't throw it away. They're here somewhere. These pages are from one of those Dollar Tree or Dollarama month at a glance calendars. I don't know where I put that other. I think it was 1920. 1920. I remember when I bought that in 1920. No, it was from 2020. So I just looked through my blue pouch to see what I had. And you know, I tend to like to stick with pretty, well, I would say well-coordinated combinations. But we also know that we're working with scraps, so I can throw caution to the wind if I want. Anyway, I found this teal one and this navy blue one. I've already done this one just to save some time. Now, for those shrewd viewers, Teresa, I'm looking at you. You will probably see that I have this little strip kicking around here. And the reason I did that, so you can see that if that was still attached, it comes very close to this fold, which again does not help the cause. So I had already glued this calendar page on when I decided that I better take some off. So I just used my handy dandy little, I didn't want to eyeball it. I used the ruler. I took 3/8 of an inch off on both sides, which means that now this side is going to be, my paper is going to be bigger than necessary. But of course I had to trim anyway, because we know that that lesson that we've all learned, measure twice and cut once. This is rather tall, and you know, the whole limitations of, oh my goodness, every time I turn around there's something. You'd think that by now I would have glued down all the sticky up bits, but apparently not. I think this may be one of those projects that I should seal with matte medium when all is said and done. Anyway, now the trick to remember here, you want, well, at least this is the way I would do it, or the way I will do it. I could be doing this here, but there's a good chance I'll get something on there, so I don't want to do it that way. I want to free up this surface, put it on my little glue book here, and then, you know, have easy access to it to trim it. Is anyone keeping track of how many things I've glued down since the video started? Yeah, you know, false economy. So sometimes when I sound like a nag about, you know, take the extra minute to do the prep, I should be listening to my own advice. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Oh, see? So why am I not doing that right now? When I covered this little flapperuno, I just used glue stick and art glitter glue around the perimeter. But why don't I grab my sanding block so that you will see that I occasionally, I'm just going to do this over the garbage can. Okay, well, it's not working very well. I need a bit of support here. Why don't I follow my own advice? Or that sometimes I do learn from my mistakes. So as the shine disappears and the design gets obscured, you know that you've probably taken enough off. Okie dokie. So now I'm ready. But as I started to say, the caution is don't glue this down upside down. So I have to remember, okay, I want it to read right side up, so that means it has to go that way. So let's just use my Yoo-hoo. Kind of slather it on. Again, it's sometimes hard. You kind of want to sometimes angle the thing you're gluing and see if you missed a spot. And then, because there will be some exposure to wear and tear here, I'm going to just add a skinny little bead of glue, of art glitter glue around the edge, because if it's going to lift anywhere, that's where it's going to lift. Okay, but that also means that this better go right the first time, because I'm not going to have a second chance for positioning. Now, forgive me if I'm partially out of frame, but honestly, it's more important, at this point, it's more important that I see what I'm doing then you see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got that there. I know that I'm going to have to trim, but that's okay because, see, it's these dirty hands that are making the problem here. Why doesn't someone tell me to use a wipe? I have wipes. Let's just grab one. So because I haven't, glued down this edge off that little flap, I still have access to wherever I need to go to trim and get a nice fit. It would be too crazy making, in my opinion. Although I did try this in the beginning when I was young and foolish. It would be crazy making to try to take measurements and get that to fit without giving yourself the option of just trimming it after the fact. Okay, so I think we have good adhesion. It still feels cool to, cool to the touch. So we know that it's not quite, did you see that? I could very easily cut that tie. I have to say, maybe that's why a person subconsciously forgets to do those. They are kind of a pain in the butt because they're long and they're in the way, man. They're in the way. So at this point, I'm just going to cut as close as I can, humanly possible. And I'm throwing that away. Okay, so now we have this. Now, of course, it would have been nice to have two that match, but I guess it wasn't meant to be, so we will live with it. At this point, now I did pick out a few pages just to, again, save some time. I just don't know, though. Maybe I should leave the gluing of this down till I've got my signature sewn in. Again, we know that this is a tight squeeze. We know that this is not going to end up, look at how it stays with nothing in it. Now I thought, and by the way, this piece of fabric is also from that, wait, what did she call it? Carol, what did you call that? Anyway, she had sent me a bunch of these strips and you saw that I used them on snippets. Well, I have a few pieces left and in my use it, don't store it philosophy, I'm trying to work my way through some of these things. Okay, I don't like this puckering. I had just used glue stick on this, but because I don't know, did I fold it too soon or did I not fold it soon enough? Whatever the issue was, I noticed that it was lifting. So, without really thinking about what I was doing, I did a bead of art glitter glue there because I knew that would hold it. But, unfortunately, once that grabs, there isn't any way to sort of move it and get rid of that. I'm thinking it will be less obvious, though, once I sew in my pages. Now, as I was looking for things, not things, paper, here are the calendar things. Does it say that? Yeah, 2020. And then I've been trying to use up gift wrap. This would have been perfect with the cover. I could have used it to cover these pockets. But of course, you keep it for 5 years. You finally decide to use it. And then you think, damn it, if only I had that. Oh, dear. Anyway, okay. So we know, first of all, I was getting way too many papers together because You know, it's just like, well, who's going to put together, go through all this work for 4 pages? But, you know, that's what it very well might end up being. So this is obviously coffee dyed ledger paper, and it's kind of nice when you can use, you know, pretty well the whole sheet. Now, I think because it's taller than these others, you know, I will end up, and I should do that right now. Let's see, what line should I be folding on? So roughly right there. Maybe I'll do it just a hair, you know, maybe an extra line. So I'm folding along the ledger line, just so that I don't end up having a problem later. So that way, you know, there's a peekaboo effect too. You can kind of see what's beyond it. So, you know, this is probably, I did that, you know, I'm not going to care for that so much, I see. But I could, see, I should be telling you what I'm thinking instead of just assuming that you know. Okay, so look at the blue paper, and you can see there's a good 1/2 inch there, and there's a good 1/2 inch there. That's more than we typically allow. However, I could add some lace or something. Very good chance that I won't, you know, because of the closing problem. I could, but then that kind of gets rid of some of the work I've done here. I could also cut 1 inch off the top. No, not 1 inch, that would be too much. About 1/2 inch off the top. And then I would have, it would be closer to the usual spacing that you see in these situations. I think that I'm just going to leave it as is. Let's face it, this is not going into the Smithsonian or any place like that. So let's just do what makes sense. Okay, ledger paper, coffee dyed. So thrifted. One of those stationery packages that, you know, when everyone used to do fancy printing at home before digitals. So this is just a cloud thing. This is some solid coffee paper that I coffee dyed. And this is another one of those papers that would have come in another one of those sealed packages where someone bought it, thought they would use it, and didn't. So right now, I'm just at 4 pages. And honestly, I don't think I can afford any more. You saw me with these clips and so on. I was trying to get this to hold itself together until I started the video. And of course, I will do that again. But there's only so much that that's going to do. This will always want to do that. It's just the fact of the matter. Hence, that's why this is so important. Oh, one other thing. I've had this for years. I had this beautiful book with these, what would you call it? I don't know. These art reproductions that were mounted on these papers. And I thought, oh, I can live with that in there. And then I thought, I can't afford that bulk. So I started, and typically they're just anchored in the corners if you ever come across this in one of these kinds of books. So I just wanted to show you that I very gently eased my, oh, it's glued down a little further than normal. Just gently eased my bone folder underneath there, working my way slowly from the inside to the corner. Now you can see there's some fuzziness there that I'll have to cut off, because I thought, well, that's really nice. I could use it. And without the backing, it is thin, and it's not going to really add that much bulk. And of course, I still now have this to use in another project. But let's first get rid of this. So again, old book. I had taken this apart long before, like probably 20 years ago. Because of course, when I was taking art classes, I was also you know, kind of a student of, you know, studying art and so on, and you kind of want a reference thing of your own. Oh, and I should show you this. This was wrapped around some chipboard. And it's nice, and it's in the same blue family that we're using here. But it is cardstock. And originally I thought, you know, I could put it on some page, you know, obviously trim it down to size, put it on some page, and wouldn't it be a lovely tuck spot? But clearly, there is no room for this either. So that has to wait for another day. So we can have, you know, bright ideas and projects that we want to use, or not projects, but, you know, supplies we want to use, and then find that we can't do it anyway because it just doesn't make sense from the perspective of making this, you know, be able to close. Like, what, my opinion again, what good, let's make sure this is right set up. Yes, it is. What good is this book if it doesn't close? So I'm adding that thin paper. Oh, I didn't pull out my big paper clips. My big paper clips. And again, this is not so critical because we're talking about 5 pages. There's nothing so thick or bulky here. One thing I didn't do is sort of burnish this and try to flatten them out even more. Typically, I would take the extra time, and maybe I just should, to do this properly. This coffee dyed paper, of course, adds a bit of bulk that it really shouldn't because it's only copy paper. But because it is, it's been wet and then dried that way, it is bulkier than it normally would be. Okay, let's remember that up is up and down is down. Bring this guy back in. Now, because I'm not quite as scared, cautious, thinking the world would stop spinning on its axis, I am not making a template. I am not going to do a great deal of calculation or anything like that. I've got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Okay. Yes, this was next. Then this. Then this. Or did I have? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Maybe I should have the... Oh, that's not that attractive, is it? Well, can decorate that with something. I wasn't planning to decorate because, number one, you all know how to decorate, and number two, I can't afford the bulk. So let's try this again. And, you know, if you are a first timer, you've never sewn a book together, this is probably not going to be the video that is going to give you a lot of confidence. Not because I'm not explaining as I go, but because, you know, you probably want a more challenging thing to look at. I don't like these. They sometimes catch on something and like to damage the paper. Whereas these others seem to have a plastic sleeve or coating on them. Okay. So the basics of what I'm showing you is, of course, what you're going to do. But again, I and others have far better videos than this one about how to do this. So this is just to hold everything together. Now, because all my papers are not the same size, so I've got that little guy in there, and I've got this guy that's narrower and shorter. Clipping them together makes a lot of sense. Now, I do have my centering ruler here. So I suppose, in theory, I just don't know that we want to do that, though. So I've said that this is 12 inches, so centering ruler, that gives me, I might as well. Oh, and I picked this. If you saw that haul video, you know that, was it Christmas? I think it was on my Christmas list. I asked for this assortment of waxed thread because I've been unhappy with some of the other fibers that I've used. And you know, you hate to put all this work and effort and expense into doing something and then find out that, you know, sort of almost the step near the end, kind of, you know, you ruin things at that point. I shouldn't need anything that thick. I still kind of like this one. And honestly, this part came out, but it looks like my, oh, or am I going to speak too soon? The repair I did with probably E6000 seems to have done the trick. Let's get rid of this. You don't, if you wanted to buy an air drill, now you know, you've had your chance to see it. Okay. So, what I could do, again, because this is not an overly thick cover, because this is so few pages, I think I'm going to save a couple of microseconds. And I'm going to position, oh, I hope my clips will be long enough. I guess they will. I'm centering my fold to where the book folds, obviously, because you know it is possible to do a cockeyed. How would I know that? 3 guesses. And of course, once I clip this, I will try to fold it and just make sure that things are where I want them to be. Oops, I glued my little mat in there too. Okay, so we see that, yes, the signature pages, the folios are, they're centered in that gutter there. Yes, they're secured to the cover. Where are they in relation top to bottom? Pretty close, I would say. Maybe a hair, maybe they could go up a smidge, but again, it's so close that I'm not going to worry about that. So typically, and you'll sometimes see, and I have one, but I honestly took it away, put it away because my husband overbuilds everything. So when I asked him to build me a book cradle, I think just for the heck of it, I'm going to use my ruler. So I'm finding the center, which is right there. And then remember, we've got that shorter, that art piece that is roughly an inch lower than the top of this page. So that means that if I put my top mark here, there's a good chance I'm going to miss it altogether. So I'm going to go, say, from here, I'm probably going to go, I'm going to go 4 1/4. And I do want to make sure my mark is on the fold. So same thing, 4 1/4. That's the beauty of this ruler. that it saves you from some blunders. Okay, I was talking about a book cradle. So a book cradle, the one he made is out of plywood, and it's heavy and it's bulky. Typically, and then of course, I think there are some people who sell them that are, what do you call that? 3D printed. So that would be lighter weight. Some people just use a big fat Yellow Pages book or something similar. The gist of, again, this isn't big, this isn't heavy. This isn't complicated. It's only one signature. If this was a bigger book with many signatures, 5 or 7 signatures, you know, obviously you wouldn't do the same method. But because this is what it is, I am just going to kind of hold it like so. So I'm creating this V effect, which kind of, and I know, I used to watch Pam from the Paper Outpost, and she always would take a ruler and whack, whack, whack to get these pages to sit down. Probably doesn't hurt and gets rid of frustration too. Anyway, from the inside out, because this is where I've made the marks, I didn't make them on the outside, and this is the way the book is going to close. And I'm going to attempt to do this without stabbing my hand, which is also right there. So I'm kind of closing this so that my mark is likely to be where I want it to be. And again, because that waxed thread is not that thick, it doesn't have to be a gigantic hole. Pam at the Paper Outpost is also a huge fan, unless she's changed. She's also a huge fan of using her Big Bite to punch her holes. And I have to say, there is something to be said for that. However, depending on what you're using to bind it, you may find that that smallest setting, which is 1/8, is too big. Now again, it's not going to, these papers are pretty stable. You know, sometimes if a person is using something very fragile or very thick or very, I'm trying to think what other challenges there could be. Sometimes it is hard to thread your needle. It's hard to, and if you have multiple pages in a signature, it's hard to thread your thing. It's hard to force your needle through all of that without piercing, damaging, missing some of the pages. So that's where the nice clean hole from a Big Bite comes in handy. Now I've picked a fairly blunt needle with a big eye. Of course, you need the big eye so that you can get your needle through there, or your thread through there. The general rule of thumb is 3 times the height of the book, which means you would spool off, you know, you'd sort of go like this, like this, like this, and then you cut that off. There's quite a bit of waste that way, so I don't bother doing that anymore. Okay, so the way I do it, I go in through the center. I'm just wondering if I should change my MO. And the only reason I'm saying that is, I mean, this isn't very thick, but I will end up with a knot on the inside. Whereas if I do it, maybe let's do it the other way. If I do it from the outside, wherever you start, that's where now am I going to be able to see? that's where you're going to end up as well. Now you can see I have to do a little wiggling there. Okay, then I go to the top. This blue, turquoise, teal, whatever you want to call it, was the closest match I had. There were about 3 blues in that. Oh, I should be telling you what I'm doing. Okay, from there, I went there. Now, from here, I'm going all the way to the bottom. Now, you know, again, if this was a masterpiece of some sort, many signatures, many pages, with this height, it would probably be wise to do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. I think I have plenty there. So now I'm going to go through the center hole again. And at this point, my goal is to avoid piercing the thread that is there. And I'm clear. So that's good. So, you know, this is not, it might be hard for you to see, it's not a bad length. If I just wanted a little stubby knot there, I could, of course, work my way back, pull it, you know, pull it here and there, and you know, save a couple of inches of this thread. But I don't want to do that. The other key thing, the only way this is ever going to work is if you have one thread on either side of this bridge thread. So I always pull in opposing directions. So, and I don't know, I guess maybe it's because I always go top hole then bottom hole. I always instinctively know which way to pull. Does that make any sense? Because I think that pulling this way would be wrong and would more than likely, let's just cut this so I have less to worry about here. I need better scissors than that. So we can get this out of the way. Because if, again, this is kind of tough stuff, but if it was, you know, 100-year-old paper or something, you don't want to do it to the point where you're tearing things. And ask me how I know that. So I have to say I am loving using waxed thread. Now that's not to say that you can't grab a chunk of beeswax and do your own just to add to the gripping power. So one knot that way, another knot in the other direction. I mean in the other, yeah, you know, the opposite. And then usually I just, unless the string, the fiber is very thick, I will usually do a third one just for the heck of it. At this point, you can very triumphantly remove your clips and marvel at your genius. Now, I know there are people, so at this point, with these longish threads, I could tie a bow and maybe give it a little, you know, a little dot of glue just to make sure the knot on the bow doesn't let go. You see what I mean? Or I could add some beads or something. Now, because I seldom do it this way, I never even thought of, you know, what the heck? I never even thought of, you know, looking for beads or whatever. So that would be an afterthought in this case. Okay. I know that there are people out there. I should just maybe make a little more room here. There are people out there in TV land, who at this point would be taking their bone folder and just burnishing the fold a bit. And, you know, again, because I only have 5 pages, and because it is, we're tight on space, it's probably worth this extra bit of effort. Although you can see it's lying pretty darn perfectly. And then, of course, you do the same thing in the other direction. You know, no, I better not jinx myself, but when something goes as perfectly as this, honestly, you do get a little warm glow of satisfaction. So, you know, I wish your binding to go perfectly, so you would experience that as well. Now, I said I wasn't going to do any decorating. I don't even know how long have we been here. Oops, 45 minutes. Okay. I think for sure, I know that I want to glue, maybe I'll use Fabri-Tac since this is kind of heavier stuff. I'm going to glue down these 2 things on the sides. Although, now that I've gone to the trouble of covering them, yeah, it's not going to miraculously make things better if I don't, if I were to cut them off. You know, and I suppose at this point, it seems kind of, you've invested that work. There's not going to be a huge benefit, so why bother doing it? Could be the point. Okie dokie. So, again, there are usually a couple ways to, I'm saying this like you have never seen a journal being built before. Forgive me if I sounds like I'm dumbing this down or something, but I do know that there are a lot of new subscribers, and there are also people who perhaps have not made their first journal yet. They're still in the shock and awe stage. That could have been a wee bit closer. Anyway, there are 2 ways to glue this, of course. Either putting it here or putting it here. But if you put it here, unless you measure, chances are you might glue the wrong distance. Like too far, then you got a mess to clean up there. Too little, then you're having to try to squeeze in a bit of glue to actually make it hold. Same scenario here. Now I do have some little cutoff pieces. That wasn't very neat gluing. I do have, you know, pieces that were cut off these calendar pages, as well as some of the wallpaper. So, I did say, I think at the very least, I probably need to do the back of this, because that doesn't, see on this side it's virtually non-existent, but I think I have a strip of wallpaper that I could use. That would cover that up quite nicely. What's with this little boo-boo here? Okay, let's just do it. I think we'll just use the glue stick. Now you can see that this has a little wow in it, but I'm going to extend it beyond, and that I'll trim that off. And at this point I would just, again, make it a little bit longer than it needs to be, because why put glue on something that you're going to end up cutting off? All that's going to happen is you're going to get that glue on something and make a little bit of a mess. Ask me how I know. Okay. Whoops, don't do it that way. Let's find a non-gluey page to protect that. so you can see I will have some trimming to do. Now, okay, but I should be looking from this side to see if that appears straight. I'd say that's pretty darn close. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave this here for the time being until that. I don't really want to gunk up my scissors too badly. So let's see what else we maybe... Oh, I have the other side to worry about. So I do have this bit of gift wrap. Not much in the way of... Oh, but that's not big enough. Unless I do just a wee little collage. You know, almost like an on-site snippet. No, cluster. That's going to look goofy, though, having two of those things on the same page. Well, what can we do about that? I wish I wouldn't have... Oh, I could do that. Is it wide enough? It's almost wide. It almost covers. Yeah, I think it does cover. Well, pretty close. Okay. This navy is a wee bit harsh, but it will add an extra pattern and it will allow me to get rid of this. So maybe we just do something like so. And of course, you know, this bit here could be cut off and it could be a page tab. Likewise with this. But I think, even though I really don't have much to spare here, I do like the torn edge better than the straight edge. And maybe we'll do it. I tend not to really work at angles so much, but maybe this calls for it. So it looks kind of random that it landed here. I hope you can see that. Oh, I also said I could use this. Maybe what I should do instead, move this cluster up to the top and let this be a pocket. And I think just to get rid of this once and for all, let me refold it so it's essentially doubled up, because, you know, wrapping paper is not thick as a rule. Which side is nice? Well, we don't want that fold showing. Okay. Where is my this thing? So we're going to get a nice straight edge. This is now going to be 3.5 inches tall. I might just shorten this backside a bit so that I don't have to worry about it standing beyond, because, you know, you can fold perfectly. Oh, and it's still too wide. I'm sorry. I think that I need to cut it off at that gray stripe there, silver stripe. Okay. And you see how that back guy is poking out there. Hoi, 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 hoi. So let's Not going to be outsmarted by a little piece of paper, that's for sure. So we'll just take a little wedge off on each side so that we don't have anything visible from the front. Now, I can slap a little glue on there. So hopefully you are watching the videos in the series, in the collab. I know that I have fallen behind in video watching. I don't know, somehow March was so busy. April is no better. And let's not even talk about income tax. Jeez. I got my husband to phone and make, because he has a more, I mean, I'm busy, but he has more outside commitments than I do. So I said, look at your schedule. These are the days I'm not available. Phone and make an appointment that works for you, and it'll work for me. And that is my, the goal I'm working towards. I think I'll just use art glitter glue here. We don't need to go overboard because this is lightweight paper. Now, I could at this point put a divot in with my little punch. I always use the oval punch, but I am not going to because, again, this is very thin. And, this journal isn't going anywhere, so it's just a demo piece for you guys. So it's not as though it's really going to ever be filled to the max or anything like that. Whoopsie. So yes, he has the farm and his off-farm income and, our joint stuff pretty well done. But I have not done a thing. Not done a thing. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Okay, let's do a teensy-weensy little cluster at the top there. Again, it's not even really so much a cluster as it is just a little in situ. How's that for a good word? In situ little collage. Okay, let's glue. Again, we need some protection. Oh, maybe I should put the glue on there rather than on the paper because, you know what could happen. So I'm going to have it extend a bit beyond. It's not going to be anything crazy. It's neutral at the back, so it's not going to harm anything on the other side or, affect anything on the other side. And, tomorrow, well, you don't know what tomorrow is, but when I'm taping this, it's Saturday, April 5th, so got theater tickets for tomorrow, and because my daughter is out of the country, out of the hemisphere for heaven's sakes, with some friends celebrating a milestone birthday, even though her birthday isn't till July, they've gone to Argentina. So, numero uno, can I say son-in-law, is going to be my escort tomorrow. And then, because he's a CPA with his own company, and it is tax season, I'll be bringing Gertie home to the farm. And that way, it frees him up to do what he needs to do and not have to worry about walks and bathroom breaks and feeding and, all of that jazz. He does a combination of working from home and going into the office. So I just thought that was something that we could do to help him out during Hillary's absence. Okay, so Gertie will be at the farm for a few days. Thank goodness the snow's starting to melt. Otherwise, there are those dirty little feet that have to be wiped after every venture outside. Can we remove this? Yes. Let's do a little trimming, and then we'll do like a little mini. I hate doing this, but anyway, no other way. We can do a little tiny flip through. And I think I certainly met the challenge of using scraps from wallpaper, fabric, calendar pages. What else? The folder, the base item itself. This thrifted stuff. Okay. Clear the decks. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, so at some point I may add a bead or two or a charm or something. So this is how, this was a bona fide flip through. Oh no, what I just saw when I was practicing this. Oh dear, see, in hindsight, I never thought about, well, I had already glued this down. I should have not probably put that right in the center, but I can always, you know, offset it a bit. So because each one of these is coming from a different direction, you're kind of wrapping one, that's a thread, one strip one way and the other. And then hopefully you're not getting your twine in there. Oh my goodness, this thread. Oh, that was my sponge thingamajig that just fell down. Okay, so at this point I would be tying a bow. No, I think I'd have to tie a knot first. No, maybe not. Yeah, I do. I do have to at least do that much. And then I still have pretty generous looking tails here on this bow. So I think I guessed kind of well on that part. Let me get rid of these things. So at this point, with really nothing too much added, that is kind of holding together quite nicely. Okay, so you suddenly appear, you're looking at this and you think, oh, let me look inside. So you undo, 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 open, and it springs open like a jack-in-the-box. Get the little beads out of the way, open it, and you think, oh my goodness, that's so beautiful. So obviously something could be put in this pocket. There could be further decorating done. Now again, if I was really doing this, you know, to have a completed project, I would aim for something that is very, very thin. So this might be where you cut an image out of a magazine page or something. Out of a magazine, because it would add a bit of interest without adding really any bulk to speak. Da, 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 da. Da. Ah. Da, 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 da. And another pocket at the back. And obviously, same scenario there. So I think this is, like, I do have a shelf, or is it two, where I keep, you know, some of my projects. And oh, see, that's another way to secure it. Different way to tie it, but, oh, it doesn't hold. Again. So I think what I'll do, but I never think of taking photos and posting them, so I won't get too carried away here, but I will. What is going on here? Is that a tear? Oh, see? Not that resilient. I hope I didn't do that. Uh-oh. Do you see this? I know that I thought at one point I came close to... I'd better try to repair this. Otherwise, okay, if I cut it off, or if I broke there, what would I have? I wouldn't even have a complete wraparound. And obviously, because this was glued in between the cover and the inside, the outer cover and inside cover, there is no chance for just, you know, cutting another length of this. That, honestly, because that's so sharp, that looks like a scissor mark. Well, I didn't think I'd be doing this, but let me just glue in a patch. I told you that this opens up. Carefully. Yeah, that's definitely operator error. And I think that I can do a patch here very easy. Because this is so very thin, no one will ever know. Especially if you guys know how to keep a secret. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at every one of you. Don't tell. Okay, so probably to get the best and quickest grab, I should put the glue on here and then just lay it down on that thing. Again, I guess I should have, maybe it's not too late. Let's just, whoops. Oh, it doesn't really like to tear that way. Come on. Let me go, let me go. Oh, for heaven's sake. I just thought it would look more natural if it wasn't such a cut edge, straight cut edge, but is everything holding? Put a little dab right there. And how are we at this end? Let's glue this piece down too. This is craziness, you know? But what else am I going to do? So, I guess note to self, if you've got this amount of ribbon, regardless of whether it's this cheap papery stuff or something else, just be very aware of where your scissors are at any given moment, because this could have just as easily been, you know, grosgrain or pico satin or something like that. Okay, so back to where we came from. Going in each direction, pulling out those threads. Closing this. Tying a knot. Walking away before anyone gets hurt. Okie dokie. Oops. Where are my little danglies? So I think it's pretty darn cute. And I hope you have enjoyed this and will look at some of your stuff in a new way. Conference folders. Oh, conference folders, raffia ribbon, little tiny strips of fabric for the spine, wallpaper pieces, a paper wrapper. Now, I don't think they make them so fancy anymore, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And be sure to watch all the other people who are part of the collab. Thank you. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.